Hoosier fans, we keep slogging along here in the middle of February. And yeah, things aren't going well. Hoosier Nation. At least earlier in the year, Indiana was bagging some interesting wins, right? Even up until that Iowa game at home, the Ohio State game on the road. I mean, they are few and far between now. Indiana's lost 6 of their last 8. And more noticeably, it looks awful. There's no fun, there's no excitement, there's no development, there's no pace, there's no elite shooting. Even Anthony Leal is kind of rubbed off and regressed in the opposite direction. So Matt and I have a lot to talk about. We're going to dive into that Northwestern game, the Adidas Fear of God charcoal gray jersey collaboration.
Fear of God, no.
And looking ahead to the 2 games IU has between now and the end of the weekend, we're going to discuss all of that and so much more here on episode 322 of the Hoosier Sound, where we are the official podcast of Indiana HQ. We're recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, where I'm your host, Nithin Krishnan. Here with me tonight is my normal co-host, Matt Lukens. Matt, we're at February 20th, and Indiana has 0 chance of getting an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. They have an almost 0 chance of getting an at-large bid to the NIT. Things seem to be totally heading in the wrong direction. IU gets whooped by Northwestern, and I know the final score is a 4-point deficit, but Northwestern was by far the better team that game. They were by far the team that played with more juice in that game, even though they were way more shorthanded than Indiana was. IU loses to the Wildcats 76-72. It would have been a lot worse if it weren't for some crazy shots at the end of the game that made it somewhat respectable. Ryan Langborg, Princeton guy, lights up the Hoosiers for 40 minutes, and there was 0 adjustment to stopping him defensively. Matthew Nicholson looks like Wilt Chamberlain in the paint. Nico Martinelli has he's Italian Draymond to him? Is that what that's how that felt? What the heck happened on Sunday afternoon? And how is this going to get any better between now and the rest of the season?
I mean, I can't answer your question because if I knew your answer to the question, I would be employed by the basketball staff. Hopefully. I will tell you this. This has been the most depressing season.
Kind of agree.
That I have watched IU basketball play, and that is saying something.
15 years?
Yeah. That is saying something, because we have been through some very depressing seasons as this podcast is, turned. I don't even know what year we're in now. But
episode 320, 321.
But so basically all of the Archie years we were podcasting for, and I will say, at least the Archie years, it was like, I don't know.
I mean, you had Finney develop, you had Al Durham develop, you had Justin Smith develop, you had Jerome Hunter. He was, of course, stricken with bad injury luck. And, of course, you had TJD for a couple of those seasons. This team, like, the development, I'm not sure.
No, I'm not sure either. I guess we've seen Renew develop, but then he's also, the whole team has regressed. So it's hard to say that, person A has developed, whereas person B hasn't, because it's like we've seen the ebbs and flows as the season has gone on, where I thought that Malik Renew was turning into, an all Big Ten player at some point during his career. Whereas last game, Woodson comes out in the media and is like, this guy sucks.
It was it was to Don Fisher, right? So
yeah.
Just to be clear, it wasn't to the gaggle after the game, but it was to Don Fisher, and Mike Woodson literally said Malik Renew was awful.
Sucked. Yeah, he sucked tonight. Like, he was awful tonight, which is like, that's great. Like, that's our
everything is fine.
In my opinion, our best player, and we're calling him out, throwing him under the bus. Like, I tweeted, like, we're throwing our best player under the bus.
I mean, those comments
with
Matt,
heroin needles flying out the back. Like, You can't throw him more under the bus than what you just did.
Those comments are on the loudspeakers at Assembly Hall when he's talking to Mike Woodson after the game. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if Sunday was different, but like that's how it usually is. The post-game interview with the radio station is broadcast on the loudspeakers to Assembly Hall usually, and that was when Woodson said that. Just rough. I mean, that was point blank direct. We'll see if Malik responds, but I mean, if he hits the portal, Matt, we're in trouble.
Yeah, this whole program's in trouble right now. On the outlook of things. I mean, we've been waiting for the Derek Queen commitment
How long?
for how long now? Like it feels like almost an eternity at this point.
And I can't blame
Um,
him.
and I can't blame him either. I mean, to be honest, he's deciding between IU and
Rough,
Maryland, and
rough.
both programs look like they're garbage right now. So again, not really a surprise there. They, might be taking his time and maybe even looking elsewhere. Um,
Yeah.
but
Because remember,
it's
what
like
have we seen Woodson?
what am I seeing out of Trey Galloway recently? It's like,
I mean, if
no.
anything, it feels like Trey Galloway should have just started at point guard all season, and Gabe Cup's coming off the bench with even after Xavier Johnson got hurt, you would have started. Maybe you should have started Galloway
But
off
who's
the
that second
at this point.
guard? Because
I
it's
don't
like
know. I mean, maybe it's Gunn, maybe it's Leal, and then you bring in some other guys off the bench, and that's where Cubs comes in because
again,
like
the
Galloway
roster
looks
is
more
such a
comfortable
disaster.
at point than he does at the two guard.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks all right. The running and coordinating the offense, and he does have a size advantage more often than not against the opposing point guard compared to the two guard. And if it's the opposing point guard, Gallo is able to get in the lane and penetrate and dish and run some things, but he's never the point guard. To me, though, while yeah, the roster is rough this season, the roster is not why Indiana lost against
No,
Northwestern.
not that's not. I mean, it was just bad execution, bad game planning, bad
Everything,
coaching.
intensity, lack of energy, sloppy play, fumbling the basketball over the place. I mean, Northwestern was statistically one of the worst defenses in the Big Ten. I mean, they play slow, but from a per possession basis, you should have been able to carve them up, especially given that Ty Berry's out for the season and their starting backcourt, Boo Buie and Brooks Barnheiser, were both in major foul trouble, missing large chunks of the first half. And then, by the way, when Boo Buie played, he didn't hit a shot until the end of regulation. If anything, Indiana should have won this one comfortably with this roster. So that's where I'm sitting here and going, this isn't a roster issue as far as the Northwestern game is concerned, as far as the Penn State home loss was concerned. The issue is the coaching and the intensity, and that goes on everybody. That's not on just one person. Where's the leadership? Where's the coaching? Where are the adjustments during the game? Indiana only made it interesting at the end of the Northwestern game because they were in fire everything into the basket desperation mode, right? And it was nice to see Mackenzie and Baco have a good second half. It was nice to see Trey Galloway distribute the basketball. Khalil Ware had a statistically productive game, but that's all for people who just look at the box scores. If you actually paid attention to this team for 40 minutes, Khalil Ware was all right from a rebounding standpoint. Everything else, everything else lacked any kind of intensity, any kind of zip. You have a handful of games left this season to make an impact. It doesn't matter what your NCAA tournament status is. That doesn't matter in the slightest. Do you want to be here next year? If you're interested in entering the portal, do you want other schools to actually give you a look? I was at a Yale Princeton basketball game on Saturday night, Matt.
Yeah,
Both those teams would have wiped Indiana off the floor in Bloomington.
absolutely.
They would have wiped Indiana off the floor because those guys, you and I are physically somewhat somewhat similar to those players, Matt. I'm not kidding.
I mean, they might have a few more pounds on me, but yeah, I mean, they're not
But
that much
those are
taller than me.
two programs that have an idea of what they want to do on both sides of the court. They're playing for each other. They're playing connected basketball. The elephant in the room, Matt, is do you think this is going to be a 1 year issue with Mike Woodson? And if it is, I think everything is fine. But is this going to be a 1 year issue where we end the season, put it in the rearview mirror, and things get back to business starting next year? Or do you see parts of this that could very well be sustainable, lingering issues for years to come?
I see this being a lingering issue because it's not like it's just this team that's had this problem. Even on the best team Woodson's had, which is last year's team, this was still an issue. Like the team still seemed very disconnected, and I think a lot of the disconnect was masked by having like, how
Legendary.
good, yeah, legendary player like Trey Jackson Davis. He deserved to have a title-winning sort of team surrounding him. If he has, you know, a half, another half decent shooter and maybe a little bit more competent of a point guard and some decent guard play, like that team is competing for a Final Four and not losing to Miami in the round of 32, right? So
I mean, Tony Adragna, and I hope I'm pronouncing his last name properly, like he posted a clip. Like I don't like using effort and energy and intensity as a reason for a basketball team struggling, especially at the Big Ten level, because usually it's something deeper than that. Maybe a team's not taking enough threes. Maybe not they're not playing with the correct tempo. Maybe they're really struggling in protecting the paint. Maybe the other team is better coached. But like more often than not, energy and effort and intensity are a lazy person's excuse for explaining issues with the basketball team. That's just how it is normally. That means you don't know what's wrong with your team.
right.
But Tony Adrenia goes out and he posts a clip of all the offensive rebounds Northwestern gets on Sunday, and it was in the teens. Ant Wright said it pretty simply. It's a matter of just a guy finding a guy and showing intensity and showing aggression and showing want to as far as finishing a defensive possession with the rebound
Yeah.
instead of the other team grabbing it with Matt, Wilt, Chamberlain, Nicholson and finishing with the dunk on your face. I mean, and it's not just starters. I'm not going to throw Khalil Ware under the bus here. I'm looking at Malik Renew. I'm looking at Peyton Sparks. I'm looking at the backcourt for Indiana, whether it's a freshman or whether it's a senior. And there is no purpose when it comes to rebounding the basketball. And it all comes down to this, man. Indiana's fan base is the only thing this program has going for it right now. And if you're wearing,
It's the only thing that they've had going for it for like the last 8 years,
but
TBH.
like, I mean, okay, you're right. But like you sat here and you saw a team last year. Okay, they ended up getting a double bye in the Big Ten tournament. They ended up getting a top 4 seed in March Madness. Like you'll take that, okay? I'm not gonna like disregard that result, even if it was a winding journey along the way. You can't afford to lose your fan base because guys transfer to your program and don't care to box anyone out. You
Yeah.
can't lose your fan base when players who have been here for multiple seasons can't put their nose in the paint and rebound a missed jump shot or a missed floater or a missed layup or a missed free throw. You can't lose your fan base because Zach Edey is the first to the ground on a loose ball in your gym.
I
It's
mean, to
it's
me,
rough.
it's rough, and it spells out to me that there's some issues behind the scenes with
I mean, I
like
hope you're right because then
with
get them all out of here and bring a new team in next year.
yeah, but like interpersonal issues. It's like the team doesn't want to play for each other, right? That's what it spells to me. Like when I watch this team play, it reminds me of a really bad NBA team, right? Have you ever watched like a low tier NBA team
Yeah.
play? even a
Yeah, shout out
mid-tier
Detroit
team.
Pistons.
Yeah, exactly. If you watch it, go watch the Detroit Pistons game. Those
They're
guys
talented.
they have talent, but they don't like playing with each other, right? You can just see it, and the pieces don't fit together, and they know it doesn't, so they're not giving their all, and they don't feel like, you know, their effort is going to be rewarded in any which way because they don't trust their teammates. And it shows, and
Yeah.
this IU team has that same look where it's like they don't look like they want to box out for each other. It's like, why am I going to box out when I know, insert player here isn't going to do it anyways, regardless of whatever the coaching staff wants them to do.
It's so awful. And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg because I had never seen a team regress as the season's gone on, regress more from the free throw line than this one as well. I mean, you're at home. And even if you don't care to play for each other, at least make your free throws when it's you versus the basket. And somehow this Indiana team at home goes 12 for 21. And again, I watched an Ivy League game on Saturday night where a bunch of guys who are part of top 100 teams in the country hit a free throw after free throw after free throw after free throw. And by the way, even if you make them all, that doesn't guarantee you anything because that's what Purdue did on Sunday. Purdue made all their free throws. They still lost. Okay? I mean, these are the bare minimum things that you have to do in order to field a team that is worthy of making the NCAA tournament. I don't understand it. These are players that have had basketball as a top priority for them for the last, 10 years? I mean, for some of them,
Plus,
maybe less, but like, there are players on this team that have been on youth basketball and middle school basketball and high school and AAU and all of this since they were 6, 7, 8 years old. What's going on? How are you not better than this when it comes to the simple stuff? Because this is the bare minimum. This is just to get into the door so that you have a chance to win 12 games in a season in Big Ten play. Michigan State does the bare minimum, and they're getting their rear end kicked by Iowa at home as we're recording this. Matt, everyone right now is looking at Michigan as kind of the laughing stock of the Big Ten. You can't look at Ohio State any longer. They fired their coach and beat Purdue. Michigan's the laughing stock of this league right now. Why won't it be? What's preventing Indiana from being that next year?
I actually don't know if I can give you that answer. There is nothing
Liam
preventing
McNeely.
it.
Why won't is that good enough?
I mean, Michigan's got recruits. It's not like Michigan is a slouch when it comes to recruiting. Now they don't have a top 25 guy, but
It's not just the player, right? It's how you use him.
yeah.
I mean, they're they're NBA teams that struggle with that understanding, that struggle with that lesson. They go out in there and they get, I don't know, they get James Wiseman, at the top of the NBA draft, or they go out and they take Johnny Flynn uh, ahead of Steph Curry, and a bunch of teams had no use for Steph Curry. Heck, the T-Wolves took two guards ahead of Steph, but it was a guy like Mark Jackson initially, and then Steve Kerr with Golden State that actually had a vision on how to use him. Braden Smith isn't Braden Smith anywhere else in college basketball.
Right.
Same with Boo Buie. Same with Kisei Tominaga. Same with someone like AJ Storr at Wisconsin. You have to have a coach that has an idea of what that player is going to be. Now, Mike Woodson has shown that before. That's why this year is so frustrating because Mike Woodson brought in someone like Jalen Hood-Schifino and used him in a unique, specific way. Mike Woodson didn't tell Jalen Hood-Schifino to chuck up 8 threes a game because he knew that was something he could do later in his career. Right now, in order to get Hood-Schifino in the first round, it was, brother, go to your steady diet of mid-range expertise, beat the guard that's defending you around the corner and get to the rim, And if those two are defended, they're probably going to foul you, and you're going to go to the line and make 75%. Like, there was a clear plan on how to get Jalen Hood-Schifino from the middle of the season, by the way, from thrust into the starting lineup to the first round of the draft. I'm holding on some hope that Mike Woodson can do that with Liam McNeely, or can do that with the couple of transfer guards that come in, or do it with someone like Gabe Cupps, who I'm looking forward to seeing in an IU basketball uniform again next season. And I hope he's got that with Malik Renew as well over the next year or two he's at Indiana. I have to say, though, at a bare minimum, there have to be consequences for missing the NCAA tournament. And in all likelihood, missing the NIT, but that doesn't matter. Missing the NCAA tournament. I think
The
Mike
consequence
Woodson
should be Mike Woodson is forced to hire a former head coach.
He has got to completely revamp the assistant staff on this team. I'm not sure. Brian Walsh is going to stay because he was responsible for McNeely's recruitment. Everyone else, I'm okay with overhauling as far as the bench is concerned.
I'm not sure I'm not okay with Calvert Chaney leaving just because he just got here.
It's a fair point.
And this mess can't possibly be on him.
Right? The pictures of him on the bench on Sunday were brutal to watch. Man. He is more infuriated than the fan base right now watching this garbage. I mean, the crazy part is Chaney has no collegiate head coaching experience either, right? And it's just like everyone on this staff, I'm sure, has helped in recruiting at some point or another. I know they have, right? I know they've been involved with recruiting. Kenya Hunter was very instrumental in getting Jalen Hood-Schifino into the building and Parker Stewart into the building. Brian Walsh and Liam McNeely, we know that. But
I'm not gonna lie, Kenya Hunter has missed on a lot more than he's made.
At the end of the day, though, like, recruiting only gets you so far because Northwestern doesn't recruit like Indiana does, and they've kicked our rear ends for 4 straight games. I mean, okay, they've been close, but result-wise, 4 straight victories, that's something that hadn't been done in decades for the Wildcats to take 4 in a row against Indiana. I remember when they came to Assembly Hall and won, when Tom Crean was completely rebuilding the team, that was like a monumental victory for Northwestern. Like, they beat the 08-09 Indiana Hoosiers in Assembly Hall. What a revelation. And now it's just like, you can just cross it off the list and it's going to be a win for the Wildcats coming into Assembly Hall. Easy peasy, have no problems. I mean, Trey Galloway and Khalil Ware were okay. I just don't know where the development is for this team. We're going to talk more about IU. We have to discuss these jerseys that they wore on Sunday afternoon. But first, it's time for Who Won the Week this past week in IU sports. We're going to tip our cap to the IU baseball team, folks. They started the season over the weekend with an impressive 2 out of 3 set down at Coastal Carolina in Myrtle Beach. That's where it is, South Carolina. The Hoosiers did fall to Duke in the season opener, but then they bounced back with wins against George Mason and Coastal Carolina. The Hoosiers really riding their offense and some solid pitching over the last couple of games. Connor Foley won Big Ten Pitcher of the Week. He's a guy that's going to be on a Major League Baseball mound there in no time, surely. The Hoosiers lost to Duke. Not too shabby. I mean, Duke is a top 25 team. That's going to be a team that's probably going to be hosting a regional, if not a super regional, when we get to baseball tournament in the summer. So, hey, if Indiana looks back and says, "Hey, our toughest loss was an L to Duke in the season opener," I think you're feeling pretty good about where the team is at. The Hoosiers knocked off Miami, Ohio here on Tuesday night in the home opener. It's one of the great IU sports experiences. I'm sure you all have gone to football games, basketball games. Go see baseball, soccer. I mean, that's really where you can have a really good time at IU as far as enjoying a nice time watching all the different athletics teams play, especially if they're ranked, which IU baseball now is according to D1 Baseball. Folks, if you like to enjoy, if you liked our podcast, all you have to do is search for The Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay up to date by following us on Twitter at Indiana HQ and at The Hoosier Sound. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. That kind of support really helped us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans, such as yourself. Matt, when we rewind a week ago, I would have never expected to hear the phrase fear of God so much in my entire life. Now it is all I can think of as Indiana worked with Adidas and Fear of God to roll out a black, dark gray-ish, we'll call it dark gray, alternate uniform out of nowhere that they debuted against Northwestern on Sunday. The women's team will be wearing them on Thursday against Iowa as they try to erase that stench of the Illinois loss during President's Day afternoon. Neither of us saw this coming. I think all of us are okay with IU experimenting with alternate uniforms, but there were a lot of polarized opinions from the fan base, from the appearance of the uniforms to how Indiana rolled out the news that they were going to the new jerseys. You can talk about the idea of these uniforms, Matt, the execution of the launch, how they looked. What are your thoughts? I'm curious to hear about Indiana's beautiful new alternate jerseys.
So I'm not a fan of those jerseys. I understand the fashion statement behind them. I understand the brand power that Adidas has with fashion brands, and we've seen throughout the years the aforementioned redacteds that no longer work with Adidas were a big hit in the fashion scape or whatever, and I still wear them. They're very comfortable shoes. Have nothing to do with the creator of said shoes, but like I can see why that would be a big deal. And it is like for IU to work with a fashion brand on iconic basketball jerseys and wear them for big games is super dope. And the fact that it's I believe IU basketball's first all black jersey, if
dark, non-white,
non-white, not red
Yeah.
jersey, right? Is a pretty big deal. As the program tries to modernize itself a little bit more. That being said, my full disclosure, my college degree was in sport marketing and management.
Nice. Okay.
Right. So I basically spent 4 years of college studying what it means to build a brand in sports, right? And build an image and build a fan base and the continuity of all of that. On every single level, this doesn't work. Like on all level, the fan base doesn't want new jerseys like that. All right, so that doesn't check out. The timing of this doesn't work with your other branding. For instance, the women for Iowa are having a whiteout. And they're now wearing all black jerseys or all dark gray or whatever the color they are.
We're gonna call
it. It doesn't align. Okay. So the fans don't like it. It doesn't align. Also the team sucks and isn't playing well. So it's not like they're gonna be getting any positive attention in the jerseys. And so I mean, to be fair, this was probably in the works for a year plus, right?
You think so? You think it
Yeah,
was?
it wasn't. This is not just like but the timing of it is just terrible, and a lot of things in marketing and in advertisement,
100%.
a lot of it, timing matters.
Yeah.
Like universally, timing matters. In business, when whether it's the stock exchange or when you're buying into a business or when
Sure.
you're deciding to relocate or expand, like all these types of timing matters. The timing on this is just deplorable, unbelievably terrible, in every which way. And it was a big distraction all week, thank God, from the team's play, because it's not like the team's been
Well, it's
playing
just
that
a week.
well.
It was really just like 36 hours, right? Because we
Yeah,
found
but
out
we've
on
got
Friday.
36 hours of us not complaining about how the team's bad. We saw them playing the uniforms. We all went, ugh, and now we're back to the team sucks.
Oh God.
Which is it's true. the team does suck, and the uniforms did suck, and the timing of it did suck, and the branding doesn't make any sense, TBH. And that points to me to be a bigger problem than the team's
Yes,
basketball,
100%.
play, which is that the athletic department, the people that head the athletic department, I'm not sure they know what the hell they're doing. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, and it sucks to say that because a lot of these people, I think I took classes from, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm like, are you paying attention to what you're teaching? Right? Like a lot of these guys were either worked with me or
Right.
were classmates of mine or were even professors of mine, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, bro, the branding doesn't make any sense. I get it's like hype to like have this fashion brand work with IU. I get that, but the fan base doesn't want it, and that's the bigger issue with this. It's like these uniforms, like recruits are gonna be like, all right, that's cool, whatever. Like I maybe take a picture in that on my visit, right? But you could have just mocked those up and you could have never worn them and just had them in the closet for people to be like, hey, we could wear something like this and kind of like slowly work it out. But no, they went
Well,
balls to the wall for this for zero reason and zero gain, TBH.
and if you knew, I mean, if you knew that the fan base doesn't want it right now or doesn't need it right now, right? Of course, like we talk about marketing tips and tricks, right? Sometimes you got to create a want, sometimes you got to create a need. People probably didn't think they needed AirPods until AirPods were introduced, or
It's true.
Apple Vision Pro until Apple Vision Pro was introduced. But you can only drum up that interest and that intrigue if you properly roll something out and sort of build up some interest, build up some hype. You can hype it all you want, but if you just put a weird silhouette masked figure with smoke around that figure's ankles off in the distance wearing this jersey, everyone's just going to be like, what the heck is this? What is going on? Martha the mop lady said it best. When you actually saw players in the uniforms, when you
It
actually
didn't look
saw
half bad.
when
Yeah.
you saw like proper the Cuban center level, IU photography, media school level development and high quality and pictures and photo shoots and multiple angles, then the noise quieted. But this goes back to your issue that you mentioned just a moment ago, Matt. The bigger problem, it's not just the jersey rollout. It's never just the jersey. It's never just the alternate uniform. College sports is changing faster than ever. NIL, relevance, transfer portal, this, that, recruiting. Get with the times, man. If you want to introduce an alternate jersey in a losing season, like I'm not going to be that critical of you. If you get some alumni or some coaches speaking to why you're excited about this partnership with Fear of God, an apparel company that hasn't gotten into a licensed deal with another basketball program or football program like this, why is this the right answer? Is it something to do with the owner? Is it something to do with what the brand stands for? Is it something to do with getting an alternate look at an Indiana uniform because you want to become more modernized? Well, I want to hear that. I want to hear that from Mike Woodson or Scott Dolson or Christian Watford or Cody Zeller or Isaiah Thomas or someone who's played here, someone who's coached here. Instead, at the end of the afternoon on Friday, we got news dumped about this jersey, and all we had for 18 hours was that strange silhouette figure in the distance wearing a black Indiana jersey where you couldn't see the back and you couldn't see the shorts and you couldn't see anything else. Mike Woodson was brought in to reduce the noise around this program 3 years ago. That was the whole point. Mike Woodson's going to come in and he's going to take care of the low-hanging fruit. Indiana may not win a title under his watch, but he's going to quiet the noise. It's going to be sanity. It's going to be reasonableness. It's going to be sensibility from the guy running the show. And then he goes out and tells the media that he had nothing to do with this jersey reveal and we're not going to wear these uniforms again. I don't know how much institutional control right now the head coach has and the coaching staff has over their basketball program. Who's making the decisions right now, Matt? Is it the head coach or is it something else?
I don't know. I hope it would be the head coach, right? But I mean, clearly, um, there's some things being passed over his head now, which is like, then why do we have the head coach who we had a head of basketball operations, right? And we had
Is it him? Is it
is it him?
is it Adidas? Is it Jerry Lorenzo?
I
Is
mean,
it
it's got to
Scott
be
Dolson?
Adidas. By the way, speaking of Adidas, the back to the fear of God thing. Um, they came out with the merch that's possible for Indiana fans to buy from this designer brand, which I don't know who they think their target market is, but like a lot of Indiana fans, I'm not saying every Indiana fan, but
Well,
a lot of Indiana fans are recent college graduates that would like to buy merch from their alma mater.
especially
And
on campus.
yeah, or students on campus. The cheapest Fear of God thing is like $180 for a t-shirt. Like, what what are we doing here? I mean, I get it, it's fashion, right? But Indiana fans, I haven't talked about this yet. Indiana fans been begging for newer Adidas apparel for IU because it's just
Sure.
very bland and stale, and we get the same
Mix it up,
everything
right? Mix it
every
up.
they drop one thing a year that IU fans buy and sell out, and then that's it. Like the Ultra Boost, right? The IU Adidas
Yeah,
Ultra Boost are amazing, right? And yes, those are $180 sneakers, but they're sneakers, right?
that's how sneakers. Yeah, nice
Yeah,
sneakers are
they're
typically
nice
priced.
sneakers. That's the price. I'm not paying $180 for a long sleeve t-shirt.
Fitted
I
sweatshirt or
can't, or
whatever.
a sweatshirt, or a jacket. I can't. I personally I can't afford that, right?
Mm-mm.
And I know a lot of IU fans feel the same way. Like,
Yes, 100%.
so, and especially when a lot of the fan base that are diehard IU basketball fans actually didn't even attend IU, right? They're local, Indiana fans,
Exactly. Live
right?
up the street,
And
down the
and
street. Yeah,
and if let's say this was a big success and people wanted to buy it, it's not priced correctly either. So none of this makes sense to me from a business perspective, a marketing perspective, or a program perspective. So why was this even enacted in the first place?
it
I don't
was
get it.
it was tone deaf. The whole thing was tone deaf. If you wanted to do this properly, this is how you do it. You get alumni or former coach or current athletic director who is familiar with the decades of tradition and history at Indiana, speak to why the New Jersey is debuting right now and why it's the right move for IU. You sell it online, you sell it on campus, but you don't price gouge IU basketball fans or those that are interested in purchasing this apparel. Many of them haven't bought luxury apparel clothing in years, okay? And you have to convey the question, you have to convey the need of why this is different and why this is worth it and why you need this compared to candy stripes, compared to your typical classic cream and crimson Adidas apparel that you buy. Why is this different? Why do you need this? Maybe you can create a need, but you also work on the timing, as Matt said. You don't just drop something end of the day on Friday, especially considering Indiana didn't play a game for a week. So if you release this on the Monday after losing to Purdue, maybe over the course of the week, the fans are interested. I'm not saying you got to announce this type of stuff preseason, but at least if you announce it on Monday with high quality imagery and multiple angles, and either current or former players actually demonstrating the apparel, we can actually get somewhere now.
And I liked your piece about the story behind it. Like, there does need to be a little bit of a story behind
Why?
it. It's
And
the
I'm sure there is
first.
a story, but we haven't heard it.
Yeah.
So why am I compelled to buy this? And heck, now because the team got their rear end kicked by Northwestern, I'm going to keep using that term, even though it's a 4-point loss. They got roundly smashed by Northwestern on Sunday, especially from an effort standpoint. Now everyone's just going to associate those uniforms with getting whooped by Northwestern, unless Indiana's women's team can do something insanely awesome on Thursday. We're looking forward to the game. We're going to watch the game. I'm expecting the Hoosiers to bounce back from their loss to Illinois, but it's on the IU women's team now because Mike Woodson clearly doesn't like the uniforms. He said that loudly enough himself. So it's not great. I mean, I'm surprised, just as you are, Matt, that for a school that has a strong business leadership, marketing leadership, strong photography, digital skills, that it seems like no one was deployed. No one was tapped to come in and help out with this rollout. If Indiana launches another uniform next year, I would advise that go back to what they did for the Black History Month uniforms. They handled those correctly. I would go back and advise how Indiana's women's team handled their pink uniforms or some of the script Indiana gear that the women's team wears. I would follow the template for those, not the ones for the Fear of God uniforms. IU's baseball team did an amazing job rolling out some new jerseys over the last few weeks. That's how you do it properly, not how Indiana did it here. Let's have a quick social media shout out and look ahead to Indiana's 2 games this week. Folks, if you'd like to find us on social media, all you have to do is find us at Indiana HQ. We're at the Hoosier Sound on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. On Instagram, Matt, we're not Indiana HQ, but what are we?
Indiana.HQ.
You can find us there and join the masses, folks. We're nearing 10,000 followers on Twitter. You could be the special one. Matt, the Hoosiers have Nebraska on Wednesday night at Assembly Hall. They have Penn State on Saturday in University Park / college, Happy Valley / State College / Penn State. That's what they've got going on there. 2 games for IU this week. KenPom has Indiana losing both in very close, nail-biting, frustrating fashion. Nebraska's an interesting team. Obviously, they're in the mix as far as the NCAA tournament is concerned. I think they're closer to in than they are to out right now, but the Huskers need some road wins, and that's where Indiana comes in tomorrow. The Hoosiers and the Huskers right now are a pick'em, according to the sports books, with an over-under of 146. Nebraska is coming off back-to-back home wins. However, they did get defeated at Illinois by 3 and then at Northwestern by 12 a couple of weeks ago. The Huskers come to Indiana and then return home to play Minnesota next weekend. This is a strange Nebraska team, Matt. Kisei Tominaga is wonderful. Rink Mast is somebody who guards the paint and is skilled offensively. With that said, Nebraska defensively has issues. They give up threes, although I will say they do defend the paint well. If you're looking at this game from an IU perspective, what are 1 or 2 things Indiana has to do in order to come out on top against the Cornhuskers?
They got to pray to God that they can somehow find a pulse. I mean, it's on them to play well. Nebraska's going to come in and give Indiana their best shot because that's what everybody does when they come to Assembly Hall, because people understand and respect how hard it is to win at Assembly Hall. Like, even in a bad year for Indiana basketball, like, people are still proud of winning at Assembly Hall because it's hard to win in Assembly Hall. Doesn't matter how bad the team is. Like, again, Assembly Hall is like a 10-point cushion, right? So even if you win by 10, you basically won by 20, right? Yeah. If you're factoring in, the fact that the home court advantage gives you a little, 10-point boost. I mean, Tominaga's awesome. Nebraska's guards are awesome. Mast is awesome. They have a freshman in
Bryce Williams, right?
Bryce Williams that's been killing it. Like, this is the first true Fred Hoiberg team that Nebraska's had.
Sam Hoiberg.
And Sam Hoiberg. They're fun to watch, and they play for each other, and they play well together, and they all complement each other. And
they still might not make the NCAA tournament, Matt.
Correct, yes.
That's why I'm saying, this is pretty rough right now as far as the IU basketball perspective is concerned, because, not to cut you off, but even if you do all the bare minimum stuff, that doesn't guarantee you anything. And so this is where it's at, right? Nebraska's a team that, look, they crushed Indiana and Lincoln, even though the Hoosiers had some good stretches in that one. If you want the blueprint on how to beat the Cornhuskers, Northwestern won by 12 back on February 7th in Evanston. They took 63 shots, 25 were from 3, and they made 44%. Northwestern also took 22 free throws and made decent chunk of them. They made 50. Okay. So, that's a way to do it. Illinois beat Nebraska a couple of weeks ago in Champaign. The Illini took 70 shots, 34 were from three. They made 9 of them, but again, with the math, it's not much worse than hitting 35, 40% of your twos. The Illini took 30 free throws, made 20 of them. If Indiana wants to win this game, they're going to have to take threes. You're going to have to make threes. You're going to have to get to the free throw line and make the free throw line and make the free throws. That's not exactly a recipe for success as it relates to Indiana men's basketball this season. Matt, as you think of this game, Ken Pom has it 75-73 Nebraska. The books have it as a pick'em. Indiana should be relatively healthy outside of Xavier Johnson, but as you see this game, who do you think wins and by how much?
I mean, Nebraska's going to win this game. They're just a better team. They're playing much better than Indiana is right now. And I think it's going to be probably like 75-60. I don't think it's going to be close. They're just going to play harder than Indiana. They're going to outwork Indiana. They're going to outshoot Indiana. And IU's not really going to have an answer. As bleak as it sounds, I mean, this is my honest opinion.
Yep. I think Nebraska also wins this game. I think it'll be closer. I've got to think someone somewhere on this team has some kind of pride, and they step up, whether it's Trey Galloway, whether it's Malik Renew, whether it's Khalil Ware. With that said, I'm not that much more optimistic. I think Indiana will lose this game. I think it's going to be a 5-point margin. I think Nebraska will take it 76-71. I think, it'll be worth your 2 hours or so, but at the end of the day, I'm not too confident that the Hoosiers come out with a victory against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Then you head to Penn State on Saturday, man, and Ken Pom has Indiana falling short in this one as well. Of course, the big news coming out of Penn State is that Kanye Clary got dismissed, which is kind of surprising. Of course, Clary did not play when Penn State came to Bloomington a couple of weeks ago. And so the Nittany Lions took care of business against IU, even without their top scoring guard. With that said, the Nittany Lions have lost their last 3, all of which have come by at least 5 points. They play Illinois at home tomorrow night before staying in Happy Valley to take on the Hoosiers. We're kind of accustomed to this Mike Rhodes team by now, Matt. They're going to slow the game down offensively, but with that said, they play a very aggressive style of defense. They force a lot of turnovers. They like to take threes. Ace Baldwin's pretty solid, and they've got a lot of other supporting players that fare in this as well. As you look at this game, from a matchup standpoint, what's one thing you're looking for IU to do well if they're going to exploit the Nittany Lions on either end of the court?
I mean, they're going to have to get some sort of offensive consistency. The last time we played Penn State, the offense was abysmal. It was
good for 10 minutes.
It was good for 10 minutes, and then for the rest of the game, it was probably the worst it's been all season, and that's saying something because it's been pretty freaking bad, TBH. So, some sort of offensive consistency. You're gonna need Khalil Ware probably hit a 3 or 2, so that IU can actually get some floor spacing because God forbid this team actually hits 3-pointers. Yeah, that's basically it for me. I mean, they've already shown the inability to beat this team without Clary. By the way, I think Clary was dismissed because he was playing hooky to some classes here in Penn State. Maybe a few too many trips to Irving's Coffees.
Wow.
And
go to school.
That's about it.
School is important for all you listening out there. I think Indiana wins this game. Not Saturday. I think this is the one. I think they lose to Nebraska. I actually think IU gets the job done against Penn State. I will tell you, I'm actually going to put money on it. Indiana is going to be an underdog Saturday against this Penn State team, and I think it's a little bit. I think Penn State's getting a little too much credit right now. This is a team that, without Clary especially, I think maybe overperformed against the Hoosiers back in Bloomington. They really struggle when it comes to stopping people from scoring inside. Of course, yes, you can say that didn't help Indiana in their last game. I think Mike Woodson puts together a little bit better of an approach a little bit better of a game plan as it relates to this one. Of course, I think a lot of the guys that have lost to Penn State 3 straight times will try to wipe that stain off their resume and try to get a nice road win here in Happy Valley. I'm not going to throw a parade for it necessarily, but given Malik Renew is due to bounce back a little bit, I'm expecting to see Khalil Ware step up in this game. There's nobody on that Nittany Lions team that can guard either guy. In all honesty, as long as IU continues to pound them repeatedly every single possession. I'm looking forward to maybe seeing some CJ Gunn this week. I mean, if you're playing for development and if you're playing for the long term, I mean, let's try to put CJ Gunn on the court for 20 plus minutes each of these games and see what he can give you, especially before garbage time. So if CJ Gunn plays, I'm kind of curious to see how that works out in either of these games, especially against Nebraska. I have the Hoosiers beating the Penn State Nittany Lions 73-69. Matt, who do you have winning this game and by how much?
Penn State, because I never go to IU wins. And probably by a score of like 70-58. I don't think it's also going to be particularly close. And I think there's going to be a little bit. If I had to predict on anything, I feel like there's going to be more drama involving this team at some
No.
point.
Well, predict the drama. Let's play that game.
I just feel like some people are just going to be ready to be done with their college careers. And I'm going to leave it at that. And I have no information, by the way. This is just speculation, but the way things are going, and some people are on draft boards or whatever, and I think I would honestly make the smart decision and be like, hey,
Opt out.
I'm not gonna injure my body, and
right.
Season's been going south anyways, and this team feels like it's selling out on itself, so might as well pack the bags and go out to LA, get
I
some
wouldn't
sunny
do that
weather.
if I was either of them, but I like your prediction. I can see a scenario where that happens. My prediction for bonus drama prediction is Mike Woodson gets ejected in one of these two games.
I like that one too. But see, that would be
one of these two games.
That would win the fan base over a little bit. It might honestly be good for him to do.
Mike Woodson has vastly fallen below my expectations for this season, but he is someone who's actually had a track record of success at some point when it comes to coaching basketball, looking as recently as last season.
Yeah.
All these other assistants and a handful of the players on this roster, I have no use for. Okay, I'll defend Mike Woodson to some degree. Okay, I'm not saying anything positive about him necessarily, but I'm going to defend him to some degree. And I think winning the fan base over could be a potential step forward to a bounce back year next year. Something that, like, I don't know, like Juwan Howard, Chris Holtman, like, I don't remember any sort of pound the table, I have this program's back type of moment in the last year or two. Right? Like Juwan Howard punched a guy in the face, slapped a guy in the face. Like, I don't really think that was that. Like, I don't feel like that was like I have the program's back. Like, I'm here for the long term. That just felt like a moment of rash decision making. Chris Holtman, Juwan Howard, like, I don't really see a pound the table. Like, I'm here. This is my house. I'm running this show. I felt some frustration from Woodson about the uniforms, about his players, about Malik Renew. I think it boils over and he gets kicked out of one of these two games for the first time in his IU career. He got teed up against Iowa and Fran and stuff, but I don't think he's ever gotten thrown out. If I'm wrong, you guys will let me know in the comments. Any final thoughts, Matt, as we wrap up here on this Tuesday night?
This has been depressing to watch. At least the women's team has been fun, even though the last game sucked, and hopefully we can beat my secret crush in Caitlin Clark.
Wow. Okay, all right.
And hey, I like her.
Hey.
I know some people don't like her. I like her. I think she's good for the game of basketball. And she makes things interesting, even though it might be a little bit dramatic. But I, obviously I'm gonna be rooting against her on
yeah,
what is it,
for sure.
Saturday?
Thursday night.
Thursday night, sorry.
Yeah.
Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, and folks, like, there's one sport where stars star players our star players are dramatic. It's basketball. Okay, like I mean, okay, actually, it's really all of them, right? Soccer, basketball, football. The stars are dramatic. And it's the show. Okay, and Caitlin Clark, sure, dramatic, but my God, what a shooter, what a scorer. She'll be on NBA All-Star Weekend soon enough. Doing a 3-point contest somewhere or a skills challenge. Looking forward to that. From my end, like, can somebody please stand up on this basketball team, like on this men's basketball team, like just because you're not going to make the tournament doesn't mean your season's over. Like, you've got individual stuff to play for. You got team stuff to play for. Like, I know some folks might think, oh, Ware and Mbako, how much are they invested? Khalil Ware and Mackenzie Mbako have the biggest 7 games of their life coming up. Right? Like, that's how you've got to play over the next few weeks. If you want to opt out, whatever. But, like, as long as you're going to wear that jersey, you are greatly hurting yourself by playing at 10% or playing at 20% of what you're capable of. The good news is, Ware and Mbako were pretty damn good on Sunday. Just there are a lot of other folks that really struggled. And Mbako came on in the second half. You'd like to see more in the first. Can somebody please stand up? Head coach, star players, supporting cast, somebody, please. Or else, like, we got to give the fan base, look, ultimately, you got to give the fan base something to get behind. Poor Don Fisher calls every single game with boundless enthusiasm, only to see this program drop a decision to Northwestern or Purdue or whatever. But folks, that about wraps it up for 321st show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your support. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ or at the Hoosier Sound to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we will see you next time.
Peace and love, go Hoosiers.